Hi, everyone. So previously, I just did the review for the 8-year-old Camikara out of India, and I figured out let me just get dispense with the 3-year-old right away because it's kind of part of the series, and I want to finish it before the end of the year, which I hope I can post it. I'm really not sure. Right. So Camikara. This is rum that is made by Piccadily Distillers out of the Punjab. They have, I think, 3 or 4 distilleries now. They've really been growing quite at a rapid clip over the last 20 years or so. Plus, they have movie distribution rights in cinemas and bars and hotel. They've got hotels that they're dealing with, mostly in the northwest of India. And as I've mentioned in the 8-year-old review, they make cane juice rums, and they say that they're the only ones doing so. Although in a country as large as India, with as many distilleries as I'm sure they are, legal or illegal, I'm fairly certain that there's at least one more out there. So take that one with a pinch of salt. But be that as it may, they do use cane juice to make their rums. They get their cane crushed within 48 hours of harvesting. Then they put it into a 24 to 48-hour fermentation period with commercial yeast. Then they run it. They do a double distillation on those huge pot stills that they have to make their Indra and Whistler whiskies, and then they put it to age. Again, the 3-year-old is a blend. It's a young blend. The age statement is the youngest part of the blend, which is nice. So there may be some older stuff in there to give it some kick. But the important thing for our purposes here is that it is cane juice. It is a faux agricole, if you will, and it's made in India under tropical conditions. Now, that alone would make it interesting enough. Bottled at 42.8%, which, as I've said before, is the 75 proof Old British Imperial strength. And I don't know why they don't move away from that, but maybe that's just some sort of tax thing or regulatory implication with which I'm not personally familiar. Beyond that, there really isn't much to tell you. I mean, ex-bourbon barrels, ex-bourbon barrels. 3 years old, you're done, right? I mean, what else are you going to do? So, the rum. Okay. So, there is a certain honey sweet profile to this, together with wax and turpentine. Not very much. The 40 here we have an issue where we really still aren't seeing anything of the herbaceous, green, grassy, herbal nature of what a cane juice rum is supposed to present. Now, granted, we have been spoiled, if you will, by the French islands and all these other companies that are making cane juice rums or true agricoles, and therefore we have certain expectations of what that thing is going to be like. This isn't it. This is something completely different. But as I've warned you before with other reviews of this nature, you have to take the cultural context into consideration as well. And just because it doesn't taste like we expect it to from the experience that we've had, doesn't make it a bad rum, number one. And number two, right, you have to take into consideration that perhaps something in the production process in India is unique to India. And what I'm tasting here represents something more of their terroir, if you will. Although, once you start putting stuff into a barrel that's ex-bourbon from the United States, well, I mean, really, do you really still have that terroir that you think you do? Maybe not. At least not as much as you think you do. All right. So, having said all of that, right? The rum itself is light and it is inoffensive. And that may be both its great strength and its great failing because, first of all, there isn't very much to go on here at that strength. And the youth makes you have less barrel influence, but you should at least have a little bit more of the grassy notes that would, present the cane juice profile that we're used to. We're not even getting that. And that, I think, is a real problem because it suggests that there's something in the production process that I don't understand or that is not being disclosed to us here, right? So when you are nosing it, you're going to get a little bit of chocolate, a very little bit of coffee, flowers, sweetness, honey, cardamom, all those nice little spices that, I mean, I did test this on my Hydrometan. It is 42.8%, so there's nothing there, although you can't fool it. Of course you can, right? It's indeterminate, I think. And you're not actually getting any one thing in particular. What I'm telling you is what I got after like 2 hours of really paying attention to it and writing my notes down very, very carefully. And I did the 3, the 8, and the 12 at the same time so that, that I could compare one against the other and see, okay, do they actually rate well? Because sometimes the younger ones are better than the older ones, right? In this case, that's not the situation at all. This thing is actually just inoffensive. It's mild. It's milk toast. And I don't like that, right? Um, It's thin and it's flat on the palate. And that, I think, is a real problem. And that hasn't changed since an hour ago when I put this down for the first time. You are getting some bubblegum. You are getting a little bit of flowers and cinnamon and cardamom. That part's there. Rice pudding, that's really nice. A bit of gur, perhaps. Uh, you're not getting very much else. And I really wish that it had a better profile that would allow me to say, you know what, even though it's a bitch and it scratches its way down your palate, it doesn't even give you that. It's just inoffensive. It reminds me of those 1970s Bacardis and those minis you used to find on cruise ships and hotel bars and wherever that, all they're really good for is to kind of like put in a mix and you're done. So in fine, for a 3-year-old, even this kind of 3-year-old, even if it was aged in the tropics, even if it, presented with all the markers of something that should be more interesting, for me, it really isn't. It's mild and it's inoffensive and it's nice, decent enough, but it'll wake up your drink. That's about the most I can tell you about it, right? And if you think that I'm being harsh on the Indian rums, I'm not. It's just that I've had young rums that have been aged that are made from cages from the United States. I've had them from the United Kingdom. I've had them from Australia. Of course, I've had a plethora of French island agricoles, so I know whereof I speak. And they show what can be done with light aging in a way that this does not. First of all, this thing has to be stronger. Perhaps the 3-year-old is just a bit too young. If it's made to sell to the mass market, then I suppose it'll be okay. If it's made to sell to the back bars, that's fine, right? But I test all these rums the same way, and this one just isn't making the cut for me. It takes the low road, and I think that's a bit of a shame. It could be better, right? So that's pretty much my opinion on this thing. I do rate it at 75 points, which is like right in the middle. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just a rum, I guess. And we're going to stop there with Camikara now that we've done all 3 of their items. And if you have any comments about this, please let me know. And I'm going to stop with one last comment, which is this. The 3-year-old and the 8-year-old rums were sent to me by Nikhil from the very, very nice little Instagram and website called Whiskey Flu. Very fragrant name. Love it. So I have to give the guy a shout out for sending me this stuff. I mean, the guy's a real prince and he does all this stuff on his own dime, refuses to take anything from me. We met once in London. We've become very close friends. And I just wanted to give him that personal hat tip and a shout out because he's a nice guy. And I like getting these Indian rums, right? So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.